Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about this opening that I've seen occasionally, and it's a Dutch name. In English, it's pronounced 1e3, or pawn to e3. In the opening database here on Lichess, obviously, if you've played chess any length of time, you know that e4 and d4 are by far the most common openings, with knight to f3 being third most common. It's a pretty distant third. Once you get to the English and then the phi and kettle pawn openings, g3 and b3, you're down to a very small number of games. And is that the bird's opening, f4? And by the time you get to, I have to scroll this down, by the time you get to e3, which is the one we're talking about today, there are not very many games in the database. It's the 10th most common first move, which is pretty low on the list. But I've been seeing it. I've had a bot play it against me. I've had opponents in rapid play it against me. I did notice that if you switch from the master database to the player database, that e3 jumps up. It's not the 10th most common. It's the 6th most common opening. But still very distant. That's 222 million games with e4 and 110 million games with d4. By the time you get to e3, you're only at 8 million games. So every time I've seen it, it always looks like a mouse slip, but it is an actual opening. It accomplishes almost the same purpose as the much more common e4. It frees the bishop. It gives a diagonal for the queen. But it doesn't occupy a center square, obviously. The e4 occupies a center square, controls a center square. Back here on e3, you're not occupying one, but you are pointing at one. It can transpose into many different openings that you are familiar with, but normally what happens is your opponent plays this, or at least to me, and you're like, I don't know what to do about that. The Stockfish recommends putting your knight here. Probably much more natural would be moving one of your center pawns, just to occupy and control the center. In the past, I've looked at a couple of games. I've actually played this opening several times. And each time I'm not sure what to do. I've done e5, I've done d5. But again, Stockfish definitely recommends knight to f6. But it says d5 is fine as well. And if you're going to move the e-pawn, it says e6. Basically, that matches white's play and says back to you. Because by white moving this pawn only once, if I go all the way to e5, they can just move that to e4. And basically, they're playing as black. It looks like black's made the first move. And the idea for black, which is the only time I ever see this opening, I've never played it as white, is to just play principled, because this opening doesn't have a great win rate. Again, back to this database, if you get down to e6, to e3, black wins most of the games. And right here, or wins more games than white does. If you check the same database on chess.com, the same thing is true. Black wins the majority of the games. And if you check the player database, the Lichess database, again, black has better opportunities if white opens with e3. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. When they play that, it says the most common response is e5, which again is what I've been doing. But d5 works out well. Knight to f6 has an even greater win rate, which is probably why Stockfish recommends it. It knows what it's talking about. But anyway, in case you haven't seen this before, it's nothing special. If white ends up playing something like that, it's just a queen's pawn opening. It's not even really whatever that word is anymore. I have won most of my games in which I faced this, even though each time I was like, I'm not sure what's going on. The games that I lost were due to tricks and traps the tactics that came after the opening phase of the game was over. So anyway, if you know how to pronounce that, good, good for you. But if you haven't seen this, or if you've seen it and not sure what to do, just play knight to f6 or d5. Take control of the center, and which the knight also does from here. So anyway, hope that helps. Thanks for watching.